Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Breakdown with Renmar, a show where we analyze and break down emotionally. No, I'm just kidding. Where we analyze and break down sequences from each day of MPL Philippines Season 14. For this episode, we're going to be looking at 3 plays, 2 from Fnatic Onic Philippines and 1 from Aurora. So let's start things first off with Fnatic Onic Philippines versus Blacklist International game number 2. Now I wanted to highlight this play because look at the lineup that Fnatic Onic Philippines brings to the table. For this series, Fnatic Onic Philippines actually drafted lineups that don't have what we call traditional marksmen, Moscovs, Claudes, Brodies. Instead, they picked up gold laners for KELRA who are in the meta but aren't those traditional marksmen. So 2 Harith games, game 1 and game 3, and the Ruby game in this game. Now, one thing you have to acknowledge about this lineup of Fnatic Onic Philippines is that they do have the sources of basic attack damage. Yes, they are for close range, but the basic attack damage will be there. Mainly from number 1, we know how the nature of the Zask and the Nightmaric spawn. Number 2, well, shared there with number 1 would be the Ling. And number 3, of course, the Ruby. And we all know that the basic attack for a Barretts would be good as well, as long as he gets stacks. Again, not as good as marksman. So it's like the effect that a marksman brings to the table for basic attacks is spread out amongst heroes. But if you honestly look at it, the Ling is already good enough. And you also have to acknowledge that the Ruby is rocking physical items, so that will bring some extra damage to the table in terms of basic attacks. So when you are running lineups that have double fighters on the side lanes, you have to make sure that you have components or heroes in the team that can deal good basic attack damage, either coming from one hero or it's gonna be spread out. Now, let's look at the sequence. But before that, we have to look at the items leading up to it. So first, with Blacklist International, the Joy already has the Starlium Scythe, but of course, the scenario will opt to go for the Blood Wings instead, so that as the jungler you have a little bit more sustainability and shield, but the gold gap between him and the Ling is considerable. So that's something on the side of Blacklist International is the info that they already would have said that Berserker's Fury, Husk Claws, 2 items, but you also have 2 Legion Swords already for that Ling. So in this scenario, 9 minutes in, that Ling will hurt and you have to be careful. And you'll see that actually in the movements of Blacklist International in this play. Now, another item that we have to point out here is the Zask's Divine Glaive. So Zask is one of those heroes for me because of the usual item build path of a Zask. By the second core item, second main damage dealing item, it should already be good. In terms of the damage department, you can fight more. Plus it's 9 minutes in, so yeah, that Zask will already have the damage. The Valentina isn't that far off. However, it is the Enchanted Talisman first item, as expected from a Valentina, and you still don't have that second item. So the Zask damage is also something that the members of Blacklist International would be watching out for. Now, with that set up a little bit, let's look at the sequence. So you see here, Brusco has already shown himself to the members of Blacklist International and has info that they have people here. Now, one thing that Blacklist International should have considered a bit more of before deciding to call this is that minion wave in the mid lane. That's 3 minions, and you see there, instead of actually positioning, MP the King went to the minion waves first because that's the right call. You're supposed to be clearing that minion wave. You want to take care of it. You're up against a Ling who at any point can actually just swoop in and take the turret instead. You lose a member if ever, but members respawn, turrets don't. So a little bit uncharacteristic of Blacklist International to be slipping in this scenario. Now, Brusco would bring down the Glorious Pathway, and this is one of the more annoying aspects of the lineup of Fnatic Onic Philippines is that they have a Barretts with them. One of the thoughts that I shared about this draft is having a full stack Barretts from the mid to the late game before you have the damage to deal with him. It's like if, for example, it's 4 members of your team on the opposite side of the map with the Barretts. Barretts full stacks is like you're up against 5. It's like a 5-man that you're up against. It's not as strong as the old Barretts, but you know what I mean. So he actually gets the bite down onto Lord JM, and watch what KELRA will do and why I really commend this lineup by Fnatic Onic Philippines. KELRA waited for this for Lord JM to be spat out by the Barats and pulled him back. And you can see there the damage being dealt out. That is a big chunk of the health bar of that Edith gone just from KELRA, Super Friends, and I believe that's also a bit of damage from Kirk as well as he gets smacked into the wall. And as the play continues, MP the King will go in, but MP the King and outplayed because of this draft of Fnatic Onic Philippines. By the way, the Barats and the Hylos were the last two picks. Ruby was picked as one of the first two picks on the red side. Barats and Hylos was one of the last picks. Well, those Roger and Joy are actually going to be very hesitant to commit a full fight here, as you can see. Even though Haji has the ultimate of the Zask, Lord JM is slow, King Kong, great target acquisition, Fnatic Onic Philippines, great formation around Brusco, Kirk, and KELRA as well to be fighting together, and Super Friends, who's already inside the Dominator's Descent. Because of everything that we said and laid out, the acknowledgement of the items, because of the presence of the minion waves, who got the advantage first in the team fight with Fnatic Onic Philippines taking down one member of Blacklist International. Blacklist International made the right call to just back off here. Great little poke by King Kong with the Tempest of Blades. They could have committed for it, but because Kirk and Brusco were low, they decided not to, and Fnatic Onic Philippines back off. This is just a great example of Fnatic Onic Philippines understanding of their lineup and how to play it. This next play is from Game 3 of Fnatic Onic Philippines versus Blacklist International. And yes, spoiler alert, that Moskov will be able to steal away that turtle with his Spear of Destruction ultimate. Now, there's a reason why King Kong didn't use the Retribution here. It's because, number one, you can see that Fnatic Onic Philippines, with how they're formed and the information that they have in the map, they've already had their eyes set on committing a play into the bottom lane. And because in Fnatic Onic Philippines' mind, they will get the turtle, that means they can tower dive. You don't see it in the map, but there's actually a tower here. The inner turret in the bottom lane. And when you're going to be fighting under turrets, it's good that you have the turtle buff with you because it gives you a little bit of shield. Fnatic Onic Philippines just want to give themselves all the advantages that they can before they commit their play into the bottom lane. However, it's also just a little bit of a lack of acknowledgement from Fnatic Onic Philippines of what a Moskov brings to the table, a Moskov with an ultimate, and what a gold laner as talented as Outplayed brings to the table. So it would be a good steal by Outplayed. So Fnatic Onic Philippines decides to do what is expected in this scenario, which is to just commit the play. Even though you didn't get the turtle, you already have the vision in the bottom lane. You already have information. You know where Lord JM and MP the King are. You know where the Lo Yi is coming from around here in the map here. So she's either going to be here or coming from here. And you know where Perks is, probably. You have a good idea. You already have your EXP laner Kirk giving the information. Just commit the play. It should be okay. If you can get the advantage, you'll be able to get the win there. And that's exactly what Fnatic Onic Philippines does. A great entry by Kirk to be able to land a 3-man penalty zone affecting the Edith, the Lo Yi, and the Roger. So because of that and the positioning of Brusco, Fnatic Onic Philippines has already built an advantage for them. They've already catched 3 to set up for another. Brusco, I love what he does here. He commits the dash in first to really close the gap and then uses the flicker so that when he pops off the implosion ultimate, it's a surer catch. He's able to get 2. Even though Fnatic Onic Philippines weren't able to get MP the King and he's free hitting here, the Roger alone would not be able to turn this around because as we all know, the Roger, what he's looking for are low members. The Roger is a sweeper type of hero, meaning that you join in the fight when there are heroes who are at around 50% health or less, or there's one squishy backliner hero who's really out of position. But since neither of those conditions are checked, the best thing that MP the King can do is just attack from range, while Fnatic Onic Philippines will have free reign, even though it's under that inner turret, to be able to just take down the members of Blacklist International. KELRA even picked up a Feather of Heaven while that sequence was happening. Good tower juggling between him and King Kong. The Zaman Force was laid down really well. The Dominator's Descent was a perfect timing coming in from Super Friend. So MP the King, it just adds a little bit more to his frustration of not being able to do anything in this fight. One thing that I wish Perks didn't do though is that I wish he no longer spent that flicker to try to get it away. At that scenario, you could just safely assume that if you're Perks, that you're gonna get taken down, man. No need to commit the flicker. So now you give up your life, you get taken down, you don't have the flicker anymore. That's a 2 minutes, very expensive and costly spend there by Perks. However, what Blacklist International was able to do here is that they were able to push the top lane with outplayed, and that helped them a little bit more as the game went on. They would eventually lose this game and lose this series, but Blacklist International made the right moves here, but Fnatic Onic Philippines made the better moves all throughout this game. So that's play number 2. Let's go on over to play number 3. This final play of the episode is from Aurora versus RSG Philippines, game number 1. Now, what I like about this play is that there are some great individual movements here, which eventually translates into team victories. So again, acknowledge the information in the map. Number 1, Renegade has already tracked Erad, because before this frame, Erad and Renegade saw each other at this portion. So now Renegade knows that Erad is going to be coming through here. So that's where he's going to be focusing on. Plus, number 2, as we forward it a little bit more, you see that Aurora has great positioning around the Lord. This is a very important shrub in objective fights, either leading up to the objective fight or during the objective fight. Make the most out of the shrub that Edward is in right now, and where I'm pointing at with the arrows. That 1 pixel shrub in the river in front of the objective is so good. Hold that. If you're the roamer or the EXP laner, just hold that, bro. You get a lot of info there and a lot of advantage there. So with Renegade understanding that Erad is coming where he's coming from, Renegade is just gonna go forward. He gets info and decides to commit the Unstoppable Force. So even though that's not Erad, you're wondering if you're Renegade, wait, why use the skill? Because that allows you to close the gap to whoever is there in RSG, and most importantly, close your gap to Erad. So even though he didn't get the ultimate onto Erad, he got closer already because he used the Unstoppable Force. Remember, the Jawhead is immune to crowd control effects during the animation of the Unstoppable Force, and so he has a chance to actually toss Erad. However, Erad will not be able to be tossed by Renegade. There, as he try, he gets to commit the ultimate first, and he gets to safely, within the distance of being able to retribution the objective away from Aurora. Although that won't happen, because as we look slowly, right after the takedown of the Lord, it wasn't actually the retribution of Demon Kite that got the Lord down. The retribution was early. You see this stream of light, that's the retribution of Erad. That came in early, and you see these ticks. That is the magic damage of the Julian, who is eventually going to be the one who got that Lord. So just so unfortunate. RSG committed a Hail Mary play here to try and get the Lord for themselves. This positioning of Nats and Aqua, actually, it's a good sign that they're gonna try to back off right away. They're really just trying to get the Lord. They're not committing a long team fight because their gold laner, Kusei, is in the bottom lane. So that's just a Hail Mary to try and get the Lord. But Aurora will be able to cover their escape. Erad gets brought back by Edward's final slash, and see how the members of RSG are clumped up? Oof, look at that stun by Yue. Great stun. If I'm not mistaken, that is the second skill of the Zask, or the third, second skill of the Zask. He'll be able to get that stun off onto 3, and that's just a great call by Yue and by Aurora to decide and commit it. He gets to reposition the Dominator's Descent and the enhanced Nightmaric Spawn, put himself in a scenario where he gets to stun 3 members of RSG, and Renegade is also there waiting at the wings. He'll be able to get a flicker and a toss. He tosses back 1 member, tosses back Aqua. Great setup. Demon Kite even put his enhanced chain and scythe as to where Aqua will land. As the play continues, Naths and Light can just try to hold on, but eventually they'll get taken down. Edward will be able to reach it with the Vengeance. That was just a great play by Aurora, showcasing some great individual decision making that was translated into a team victory. That's it for this episode of Breakdown with Renmar. We're going to be back for 3 more episodes throughout this coming week for the second week of MPL Philippines. I'll also be there on broadcast, so I'll see you on MPL Philippines Season 14 Week 2 and on the next episodes of Breakdown with Renmar. See ya.